Hi, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and we couldn't be happier to host the 4th annual Insight Jam. I want to thank everyone who's participating this week, as well as our Insight Jam sponsors, DataStax, Monte Carlo, Denodo, High Gear, and Seller Data. I also want to thank our Solutions Review editors and staff for pulling this event together. When we started this in 2019, we wanted to take a moment at the end of the year to celebrate enterprise technology with a social media event offering best practices and predictions. This will be our biggest jam ever, including 16 live-streamed expert panel discussions over 4 days. And we intend to keep the insights flowing in 2023 with the launch of an expert subscription site for any tech professional who wants to publish posts on Solutions Review. Again, thank you all for being here and enjoy the Insight Jam.
Solutions Review presents Insight Jam, a social media celebration of enterprise technology. Hello and welcome to Day 3 of the Insight Jam. I'm Jonathan Paula, the Director of Multimedia here at Solutions Review, and I'll be serving as your host for the next 4 hours as we discuss work tech across 4 different panel topics with practitioners and experts from around the world. So let's get started with today's first topic, the proliferation of cloud-based automation technologies. We have an esteemed group of experts. We're going to be led by our moderator, Anders, today. Let me bring them all in. Hello and welcome. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you, Jonathan. Just by way of introduction, my name is Anders Lillevik, and I'm the founder and CEO of Focal Point. Focal Point is a procurement automation solution to automate the back office functions of procurement that is often not seen by folks in the business. I started Focal Point after being a procurement practitioner for 25 years. And I decided to launch Focal Point 3 years ago. By way of introductions, can we get Sanket next, please?
Hi, thanks, Anders. This is Sanket Karkar. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Acumatica. Really glad to be here on the Insight Jam and share our ideas in terms of where automation is going. Acumatica is the fastest growing cloud ERP company in the world. We're really excited about supporting small and medium businesses and their growth and helping them to automate and improve the capabilities, leveraging cloud technologies and focusing on usability as a primary piece. Thanks.
Fantastic. Camela, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm the VP of Marketing at Caliber Mind. My name is Camela Thompson. Our platform is the B2B Revenue Insights platform you can trust, and we are CDP purpose-built for B2B. I started as an analyst. I moved over to Salesforce administration in about 2007, and then I managed technology stacks across go-to-market for B2B for about 15 years. So don't be fooled by the title.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Tony, do you want to go next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Tony Newcome, Chief Technology Officer here at ActiveCampaign, where we help businesses scale their customer experience. Prior to ActiveCampaign, I worked at Salesforce building products in the Marketing Cloud, which I joined through an acquisition of ExactTarget, and I'm really excited to be here and chat with everyone today.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Chad, do you want to go next, please?
Hey there. Thanks a lot. My name is Chad Ruff. I am the CTO of ACT. ACT has been around for about 35 years and is the founder of the CRM back on the desktop days. I came along about 4 years ago with ACT through an acquisition of a company called Kuvana, and I have a pretty deep background in marketing automation. In 2006, I founded a company called Sales Fusion, which was marketing automation focused on email marketing, landing pages, web activity, and lead scoring. That company was eventually sold to Sugar CRM. In 2016, I founded another company called Kuvana, which again was a marketing automation company that was bought by ACT, which is where I am now. So happy to be here and happy to share my insight on automation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chad. And Guido, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, Anders. Very pleased to be here at Insight Jam. And, hi to all viewers here. So I'm Guido Patanella, the SVP for NextThink. NextThink is a leader in digital employee experience. Our platform gives unprecedented insights at device level for over 20 million endpoints across large IT organizations that are our customers. So we're very excited to represent those customers here and their feedback. Prior to NextThink, I was in leadership and architecture leadership roles, and also CTO roles for Italy's largest software organization, and also have 20 years of ERP experience coming from PeopleSoft and Oracle as well.
Fantastic. So we're going to jump right into our questions, and I'll start with you, Sanket. So automation has been known to save both time and money, but do you believe there are other ways that these tools and automation can provide value that might not be obvious to the common man?
Yeah, I think there's a number of different ways that automation can provide value. I think one of the key things that automation can provide is the ability to make better, faster, and more appropriate decisions. So I think if you're a company and you're leveraging automation by taking the advantages of what automation can provide, which is a reflection of a model and decision making on a variety of different things, you can take those industry best practices and then be able to speed up this decision making or guide decision making through could be difficult times or sort of normal times. And particularly in this world where you've got employees moving back and forth, coming in, training employees, the speed of having those employees come up to speed on how the business works. Automation can help that process and make you more productive from that standpoint. So I think that's one thing. The other thing I think automation also does, sort of another key lever, is around building capabilities for businesses that are growing. So if you're a fast growing business and you're thinking about how do I compete with someone who's much bigger or has a larger footprint or a bigger customer base, well, automation will allow you to create those capabilities in a faster and a cheaper way that will allow you to be more competitive. So I think those are the two things: better decision making and new capability building.
All right, Tony, I see you nodding. Do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I agree with Sanket there. I think that when I think of automation, one of the great opportunities people really have is what I would consider an open automations platform. So really tying your tools together, delivering an ideal customer experience. I think that so often we see disconnected experience when you reach in to talk to a salesperson, or you talk to somebody in support, or perhaps somebody in the technical audience that you might be talking to at a customer or at a company. They have a disconnected viewpoint of you, and they might be using their own tools. And I think the right automations platform really would allow you to not only connect those, but to experiment rapidly across your tools to really look and trying to zero in on that ideal customer experience for your customers. So I think it's never been a more exciting time to be alive, I think, for software industry people. And certainly as a technologist myself, we are just getting started in what's possible in automation. And I just think that the value to businesses is just now starting to really become self-evident.
Fantastic.
I'd love to jump in just really quickly. We're seeing some really interesting things on the CDP side. So one of the big struggles is we generate so much data in B2B, and it's really hard to pick out the signals that are really important. Using a CDP, piping that data into a CRM, and then using workflows to alert customer success when product usage is down, or sales when we're hitting key pages on the website. There's a lot of new things we can do because we can do web tracking, put that into CDP, and then pipe it through IP de-anonymization and other factors.
Fantastic. Those are great use cases. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, I agree with Camela. The use case I was thinking about was very similar, that we have incorporated tools into our product that shows us people are not logging in enough, or people are losing interest by not hitting enough pages. Their activity inside the site is starting to wean off. So we take that data and we put it to our renewals team ahead of time before it is too late. And then they can do proactive outreach calls to say, hey, how's the product going? Can we help you use other parts of the tool? Have you been sending email campaigns? What's your success rate on that? And, do this 3 months after the trial has ended, and 6 months before the actual renewal starts, to get people back engaged with the tool. So having all that data automatically pushed into the CRM and bubbled up as perhaps a task for a salesperson to call is super valuable.
All right, Guido, do you have anything to add to this?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think it's a great question. It's interesting how this opportunity to highlight how automation within our tools can benefit people. For instance, in our own platform, automation allows IT to spend less time in manual tasks, and all employees have a tremendous acceptance of decreased frustration. so they see a decrease in disruptions in their technology during the workday. It's very important for HR and IT leaders so they can put focus on employees and the turnover and burnout numbers just show a very positive upside there.
Yeah, fantastic. So I will add my 2 seconds to that. So what we do is automate internal business processes between departments and between internal organizations, and just getting the visibility about where stuff is, where it might be stuck, what other tasks and procedures need to be executed next, and so on and so forth, provides visibility into what needs to be done. And then not necessarily, the great aha moments, but just getting a dashboard where you can see everything in one spot provides a ton of value, I've found. Anything else on this topic before we move on?
Yeah, I have one more thing. Is one of my favorite things is called turning a cold call into a warm call, and that's through automation, through marketing automation, actually. So imagine if people are driven to the website, they fill out a web form, you send them an email, you can see their engagement for opens and clicks, you can see that they've returned back to the website. All those things lead to the engagement of a person. And so instead of a salesperson making a cold call, which they hate to do, they're actually calling somebody that knows your site, knows your product, and are probably ready for a call like that. So that's where automation can really help in bubbling up that kind of information back to the salesperson.
Fantastic. So Chad, I'll stay with you. What kind of impact do you see cloud-based automation have had on the back office, and what do you expect it to go from here?
Yeah, I can really see, this is personal experience. So just thinking about our DevOps team and our product development team. So the way we have our DevOps team set up with automation, our developers will check in code. That code will then be compiled. We'll run automation testing against it. If we have issues with that, they'll automatically be entered back into Jira system for a ticket. We'll run scripts for testing it against penetration testing, static code testing. All those things happen automatically. It's a huge time saver in terms of no one having to really worry about that when they check in code. If the code gets rejected again, the big thing about that is it's not putting bugs into our production environment, because we're automatically kicking those out. So we use a lot of different tools, from TeamCity to Jira to track that information, Acunetics for pen testing. So very, very good technology to help our DevOps team push code to a stable environment or to production environment without them ever having to worry about it. And I think really kind of the next things for us is we're going to incorporate browser level testing. So all the different browser versions, that will be probably the process after we do penetration testing for our DevOps team. Another thing, and don't want to hog the show here, but our business systems team is another internal thing that I can speak from experience. When a person signs up for a new trial flow, that information is then put into our CRM. A history record is created. A task is created for our salesperson to follow up. It goes into our marketing automation system to do a nurture campaign to say, welcome to the trial. Here's some things you should be doing. It goes into our subscription billing system. So when the trial's up, it's automatically billed out. And then once the trial is converted, we have another tips and trick nurture campaign. This is all automatic. No one has to worry about this information. And it's really shown improvement with our retention by having this type of outreach.
Anders, I can jump in here to give maybe a couple of other examples we've seen from an Acumatica perspective. So a lot of our customers are in the distribution and manufacturing space. And I think over the last couple of years, particularly with COVID, there's been a lot of pressure to be able to do more with less. And particularly if you're in the back office running HR, IT, or financials, that can be a really tough thing. And so we've seen a couple things that I think have been very active from an automation perspective. So number one, CFOs for small, medium companies out there, distribution manufacturers, are trying to figure out, how do I collect cash? How do I know what's going on from my customers? How am I managing my receivables? How am I managing also my payables? So we provide a lot of technology automation that allows that process to be automated. So things will come in through emails. How do I process that efficiently? How do I know which ones are accurate, which ones might be errors? How do I calculate those errors really quickly because the tax was done wrong or the SKU's wrong or all this sort of stuff? And that technology is technology we provide to our customers to be able to find those differences and be able to work on the exceptions and have fewer employees, doing the sort of typical manual data entry and compliance audit efforts. That's sort of one piece. The second piece, which I think is really interesting, particularly for companies in the space, is that I'm trying to fulfill demand and I have an order coming in. Well, how do I actually know that I've got inventory? Or it's an order that goes over many months with different pieces. How do I know that I'm going to be able to supply that over a period of time? And so we provide technology that enables those CFOs and COOs to be able to say, hey, I actually know I'm going to fulfill this order or not, and then work through it. And I think that's super helpful as companies are getting more out of their back office as well.
Great. Guido, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I think it would be very interesting to look on numbers for all companies, and this is a feedback we have from our customers, that the interaction between human to human, human to system, and system to human declines with proper automation. This is, for instance, you would be able, with the most advanced AI automation of the future, simply get rid of email communication internally. When you're covering all your systems and all your back office applications as well. Therefore, we would see a tremendous impact on back office systems, email systems. In our own case, ticket systems, IT help desk systems, and CRM systems. They would absolutely not even trace some of the resolutions that the automation is applying. Our objective, for instance, is to resolve issues before the employee even notices it's been impacted by that. And therefore, the interaction reference metric is very important.
Fantastic. Kamala, do you have anything to add to the automation?
I think it's been pretty well covered. The only thing I might touch on is the boon of passive logging that's across departments that can recognize different clients you're interacting with automatically. That has been really helpful in terms of upping the rate of interactions that we're actually recording and being able to better formulate things like attribution and customer engagement. So that's the only thing I'd add.
All right, Tony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think the idea of automating the back office there's a lot of real benefits to businesses that I think you need to consider if you're sitting here today and wondering, well, what could I do? For instance, we use it to help secure our enterprise. So tying our HR system with our access system, we actually use a single sign-on provider for all of our tools. When somebody leaves the company, it's one check, one initiated transaction, everything's automated, their access is cut nearly instantaneously. And when folks join the company, that's also kind of helping that employee onboarding experience, ensuring that we set all of the right permissions. So I think there's a lot of benefits that automation really should be put in place to cover, because at the end of the day, you don't want your best people sitting around while following checklists, turning on all of the various permissions. You want them out looking at what can we do to be innovative and really move the ball forward. So I think that to me, there's just so much that automation is doing today to automate the back office that if you're not doing that, you really ought to start considering doing, because it will help you be more secure, as well as kind of all the other efficiency benefits you can get as well.
So I'll double down on that. So what we have seen at Focal Point is the whole idea of integration between multiple systems that are involved in a single business process. So having those API calls push data in and out of systems so that re-entry of data doesn't have to occur. And that's a huge time saver for organizations. So click a button, the data transfers in, and the next process can start without having to sort of rebuild everything. And you reduce errors, and you reduce, just cycle times of doing, menial work. So Tony, I will stick with you for this question. Have you seen any resistance to cloud-based automation, and what do you think the reasons for that is or is not?
Yeah, I think when you hear automation, you think, gosh, there's going to be robots and machines and computers taking all of our jobs. And I think that's still something that people are concerned about. I think you hear that when we talk about artificial intelligence, which is not all that intelligent nor artificial, right? So I think there's still that barrier of concern. But the reality is automation does more to free up people to be more creative, to go off and have deeper direct communication with their clients. We have customers that 100% of their revenue goes through an automation. All their closed revenue goes through an automation. It's picking up a lot of the sales process. Here Active Campaign, we use it for routing to make sure the right customers that need help, we will know to reach out to them. We'll put them to our what we call a customer activation team to really help them get up to speed and find value. And for those deals that maybe they need more convincing, or that we can tell that a sales touch would be useful, they'll get routed automatically. So I think that in those cases, we're not sitting every morning trying to assign deals. We're just getting to the heart of what we do, which is go and help customers find success. So I don't think that the resistance isn't as much as I think it potentially was earlier in the days of automation. I think it's still out there. I think there's a lot of fear around AI. You know, if you watch on Twitter, people are now talking about, AI is going to take the code, and it's going to start writing code and writing software. And there's some pretty cool experiments there. Someone's still writing that software. So you're just moving to the next order of a challenge in our industry. So I don't think that there's a future where we're all sitting around, collecting a check and doing nothing, and we're all on welfare. I don't think that automation leads to a welfare world. I think automation leads to a world that's more creative and allows us to spend our time with each other, not doing some of the menial work out there.
Fantastic. Camela, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I see this a lot actually in marketing land, where there's a lot of AI programs out there, from everything from content writing, and I don't think we're quite there yet, to automating testing across digital advertising, which has been fantastic. But the one objection I consistently hear from marketers is it's a black box and I don't trust it. And what that typically means is I don't understand what's happening and it makes me uncomfortable. So there has to be some transparency and work so people can understand why different decisions are being made before they become comfortable with it. And then we tend to see increased adoption. But I think there still is that lack of trust. We've heard some horror stories, like Amazon's recruiting algorithm kind of went haywire, if I can bring that up. So I think there still is a little bit of hesitation there.
All right, Sanket.
Yeah, it's interesting, I guess, hearing from all the panelists. It's great to get this diversity of backgrounds. And I would sort of almost synthesize, there seems to be like 3 different types of automation we're talking about. And each of them sort of have different levels of what I would say customer acceptance. I think, Anders, you talked a little bit about sort of, I'm rephrasing, sort of more open APIs, internet-based integration, right? And so the standardization of cloud-based technologies for open APIs to allow 2 systems to talk to each other and be effective, so you don't have people wiring stuff up, the old days of horrible EDI, those things are gone. And that's wonderful. And I think those things are well understood and I think people get. The second base, and I think Tony's example on sort of IT service desk sort of stuff, is what I would call rule-based automation, right? You have rule-based automation and you can sort of structure things and definite rules, you know how to do it and you can execute that stuff. I also feel like that doesn't have as much, sort of negative pushback. But the third level of that, which is the AI ML pieces, that I think still has a little bit of questions. I think Camela's view on like it's a black box is very key. The other thing I'd add to that, which I see, is where's the data coming from? How are you training the models? And this whole question of like, hey, I've got historical data that's relevant to my business that's going to probably help me to make better decisions on how I want to treat my customers or how I want to make demand changes or think about my manufacturing schedule. But where are you getting this training data from? And if you're using mine and I'm putting this into a pool of other people's data, are you anonymizing it? In which case, aren't you taking benefit from my data to helping other customers? So I think that's the typical conversation I seem to be having. And, this whole question of how am I contributing to the community and can I pull my own data out at any point, or am I truly benefiting it myself? So I think that's still an open question that's out there.
Yeah, everybody wants to benefit, but no one wants to put it in, right? So that's
right. That's right.
That's how it goes. Guido, how do you feel about this?
Yes, I agree with all opinions here. So, in fact, I think one of the issues that would create substantial resistance to adoption of automation and cloud-based automation specifically is on data sovereignty, for instance. So, we have regulatory complexities that only increase over time, and that's one point of constant clarification that we have with customers and adopters of automation solutions. And in other terms, there's also some biased participants that are entangled in old processes, old methodologies, and it's very important to give them trust, as Camela mentioned as well. I think trust is a key point, and understand how control can be accepted and trusted.
It's an interesting tangent there on the regulatory environment, right? Because we all have global businesses, and sometimes we have to build our models based on the most complicated control case in terms of regulation. So it's a good question. Chad, do you have anything to finally add?
Yeah, a little bit of a different twist. Nowhere close to the AI story, but ACT's been around since 1987, and we started as a desktop CRM, and in about 2008, we came out with our web-based CRM. But here we are in the year 2022, and we still have a very loyal customer base for the desktop application. And so just migration and resistance to the cloud has been something that has been kind of an eye-opener for me. And I think it comes down to really people are resistant. They don't really trust moving data from their desktop to the cloud. So that's kind of one barrier for them. The other one is that they fear that they're going to lose features and functions that exist on the desktop that may not exist in the cloud. And then, the other ones would be really, they think that the cloud could be a more expensive option for them when in reality it's less expensive. So we spend a lot of time doing education for the customers, telling them, the benefits of just moving to the cloud, much less automation. But then there's a lot of other features and functions that, the cloud is advancing much faster than the desktop. There's marketing automation in the cloud. There's a lot of integrations in the cloud to accounting software and things like that really kind of brings a lot with it for the automation sector. So it's been interesting to see that kind of that desktop, people holding onto the desktop, but we do have a good mix of desktop. The good news is that over the past couple of years with people moving to more of a hybrid model, we see people are now adopting the cloud a lot more because they don't want to move from their office desktop to their home desktop, having to move the data around. So they would rather just keep it in the cloud and be able to log into a browser anywhere in the world. And I think they're starting to see the benefits of that.
Yeah, one of the things I always tell prospects and customers is the limitations of on-prem solutions. It's staggering when you think about it. And why would you want to go on-prem? Number one, you lose the idea, you lose the upgrades that SaaS solutions have and push out normally. You don't have to maintain the code or your data center or anything like that. So I've sort of lived in banking and insurance where it's very stodgy and very protective of their data, and seeing them make that transition slowly has been fascinating. I'm going to turn to Camela next. So how has automation helped small businesses become more competitive? And are there industries that is more or less valuable than others?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of talk about both sides of this coin because there are ups and downs. So particularly in small businesses, and I'm talking from a B2B technology perspective, I'm sure we'll get other perspectives jumping in here, but tend to be very early adopters. And what I see a lot of times is that they're trying to use technology to replace some kind of human element that is actually necessary. And what I mean there is by bringing in a really skilled administrator to set up your systems correctly from the start is so beneficial. And that's a step I see a lot of companies skipping. They really need somebody who understands how the data is flowing through all their systems and should flow through the systems. The one other little interesting thing about B2B tech is I see a lot of startups building their own in-house CRMs and other technology because they can, and that eats up a ton of engineering resources. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just buy something. So on the plus side, we were talking about regulations and GDPR, privacy first builds that we're starting to see more and more in browsers, particularly Apple. Marketing has a ton of restrictions on what they can and can't do now in terms of emailing and communicating to people. And sales have found workarounds in these engagement automation platforms. And what not enough people are talking about is if you don't have an administrator who's helping throttle the amount of emails being sent out and really monitoring this, you're destroying your domain deliverability. And I've seen a lot of small companies, particularly in B2B tech, that are leveraging these tools and trying to get around this ban on getting a cold list and emailing it through marketing by using their sales team to do that and automating it internally. And it's really blowing up in their face. So I think there's a ton of wonderful things that can be achieved. There's a lot of passive logging now that has made things easier than ever in terms of logging calls, activities, that sort of thing. But you have to look at both sides of the coin and really think through your strategy.
That makes a lot of sense. Tony, I see you nodding. You wanna add to that?
Yeah, no, I think agree, Camela. Great insight there. I agree with everything you're saying. I think that when I think of what our mission here at Active Campaign is, from day one, we've always tried to democratize access to technology for the small and mid-sized business. Our founder, Jason, grew up in an entrepreneurial household and really saw the struggles of what that meant. And it's always something that we take very personally in our software, so designing it to be approachable. What's fascinating is we have 100,000 plus, 180,000 plus customers at this point, from very small solopreneurs all the way up, and they're really using the platform in pretty amazing ways. And one of the ways that I think that automation is helping the SMB is experimentation, especially an accessible automations platform where it's not something that you're having to write software or write code or really think about integration. We have an integration layer. It's very important. It's just a point and click configuration. You don't have to have a coder or an engineer to tie these systems together anymore. We think that's too much friction for our customer base. And what they're doing, where they're able to quickly experiment and say, well, gosh, what if I follow up in 3 days? What changes? If I follow up today and I blend human touch, so maybe I create a task for somebody to give a phone call in that process, how would that change? And so to me, it's just fascinating to watch the entrepreneurial spirit come through, leveraging automation, of course, for those things that are automatable, but you cannot forget the blend of that human touch. And I think that's something that, for me, it gets lost when we talk about automation. It's not somehow we're going to turn something on and we're going to go fishing or go on vacation. We're freeing up time to go and inject our time with people to have authentic relationship and really help them find success. And I think that, to me, is what I find so motivating to work in this space.
Fantastic. No, I agree. And it's funny you should say that, right? Like, we should use automation to do what we're supposed to be doing, selling to customers and so on. And it's also interesting that our engineering teams tend to try to build our own solutions when there's off-the-shelf solutions available. Guido, do you want to chime in here?
Yes, I'll take the perspective, which is a powerful word. It's called bottleneck, right? So I think to the answer whether automation has helped small businesses become more competitive, the answer is yes. I fully believe so. There's no specific category, in my opinion. Anywhere in any organization, you can identify bottlenecks, whether they're human bottlenecks or system bottlenecks. To that point, the user experience aspect, anyone interacting with a system and having to transcode that into another business task as well, is already performing something that can be automated from that point of view. So the approach here is to reach scalability, right? To allow companies to become more competitive, they have to be scalable, and bottlenecks should not exist for that to happen. So it is a strong enabler for that achievement.
Agree 100%. Sanket, you want to chime in there? I see you nodding.
Yeah, I agree with all those. And I'll give 3 examples that I've just observed of customers in the last couple of years, and particularly accelerated through COVID and being separate. So the first one is we had a customer who was using on-prem technology. So Anders, I totally understand that issue. We moved them onto the cloud, and they were basically had a business that was in one state, just in Kansas. And it was interesting. I talked to the owner and he said, we moved to the cloud-based technology. And immediately what I was able to do during COVID was expand to 6 new states. That's what it enabled him to create a footprint and sort of what I would call the digital network to be able to then move and grow his business. So that was one example. Another example for us is we have a lot of construction and field service companies. And it's fascinating for these guys who have to run truck rolls. I have a guy who has to, figure out where he has to spend time during the day. We provide the technology that allows a group of individuals who are having to go see customers to schedule their day most effectively and do that with the right inventory. So like, do I have the right stuff in my truck that will actually be able to solve the problem for these 5 different customers, and automating that and making that easy so people can be efficient. That's the sort of second example. The third example, which I found really fascinating over the last couple of years, is the whole world of e-commerce. And so for very small businesses, maybe you have a small retail store in a town, and you're trying to take advantage of, hey, I want to be on Amazon.com, I want to be on Walmart, I want to be in all these marketplaces, I want to have my own website. How do I do that? And that has been unbelievable. The stories I've been able to see for companies, we've been able to connect their own website to their back office, to their inventory, get them to be able to sell on 3 or 4 marketplaces all at the same time, and manage significant growth. In many cases, 1,000% growth in a couple of years has been amazing. And I think that is what automation has been able to enable people to do, and do it with very little resources. I mean, we've seen customers be able to not increase their headcount, but grow their business 10,000% in 2 years. I mean, it's just truly amazing.
Fantastic. Chad, any final remarks on this topic?
Yeah, adding to that, I can speak from personal experience from having run a small business a few times. But what's important for small companies is for them to look big, especially because they're competing against bigger companies. And automation can really help the smaller companies look like they have a large company presence. And just going back to that use case, the holy grail is to automate everything and to do things like I had mentioned earlier, which is, fill out a landing page, put them into a nurture campaign, but more things like having AI chat on your website. So going to a website and having a chat support where you don't have to man it. If you're a small business and you have just 10 people, you can't man a chat site. So having the AI chat just in the bottom right where you can type in a question and it finds the information for you is a huge benefit for small businesses. And that's where automation can really lend a hand. And thinking about different industries, I think the financial service sector is a big one that you can really help with automation, because you have small businesses like a mortgage consultant or a financial consultant. They're not really tied into a bigger CRM, but it really helps them to collect and secure and manage all the client-related documents, the contract executions, the e-signatures, the workflows that goes behind who has to sign what first, I think is very key. And without having these systems in place, I feel really bad for a mortgage consultant to have to go through all this paperwork and have to make sure everything's signed and have things in a certain order. So that's very hard to do without automation systems.
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback off of that too. Like, when are we going to get rid of all these closing documents that are booklets of information? Like that's an example where the process needs to be fixed before we automate it, right? But I digress. Guido, I will give you the last question for the schedule here. So if you had a crystal ball, what do you see the technology automation landscape going in the next year, 5 years? And how will this continue to affect our workplace?
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting question. Within my passion as well. One of my life objectives is to get rid of emails. I think this is, I hope our businesses can converge into that future as well. But I truly believe that we will have that communication within intercompany organizations will be fully driven through automation systems. I see that technology evolving. The interoperability among systems is a very strong trend that is already occurring. We have already a word called Schemaverse across integration technologies as well. Open standards, open messaging standards on Cloud Native Foundation as well. So interoperability is happening, and therefore the convergence of integration and automation will empower more and more systems across the board as well. Another thing is there are 3 types of dashboards that I can imagine. There's one where we look and we try to be reactive to it. So it's telling what is happening right now. And we should be evolving towards dashboards that will tell us what actions were taken rather than what actions should you take. So they're going into the reactive realm of actions as well. And also the prescriptive one from a point of view of what should you do to remediate that ahead in the future. So I think this is really the evolution of AI. This is what the maturity level of AI will lead us to.
Fantastic. Chad, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, first, I think that we'll see more and more adoption of the small business owner to the cloud-based technology. We'll see that, 1 year and 5 years out. We actually did a survey earlier this year and found that still 45% of small businesses rely on paper records, which is amazing to me. So there's still a lot of room for growth for small businesses to adopt any type of technology. And I think we've only scratched the surface on what we can do with that. But as for kind of the future outlook for CRMs and for marketing automation, I'm a big believer in predictive analytics and using machine learning to help really dig down into your data. So if you have a large database of CRM, imagine if you can use predictive analytics and machine learning to start to understand how a person became an opportunity, whether it was closed won or closed lost. It was important they became an opportunity. So if you can find out what their path to that opportunity would be very important. So imagine if you can see what their path was from what they clicked on in an email, what kind of PDF they read, what they responded to on the website, and then go find within your own CRM more customers that are like that. So you're harvesting your own data. And then kind of the next evolution of that would be to take that profile of a good opportunity in your database and find more businesses that match that profile. So you can look at different attributes of that customer and say, okay, I have very similar customers in my CRM. Turn on this predictive analytics and learning system and then go find other ones just like that so that I can do an outreach to them. And then finally, getting down into really the marketing automation side of things. Right now we're still doing email sends in kind of large batches, but I can really see us getting smarter about that by looking at when a person engaged with an email. So what time of day did they click on it? What time of day did they open it? Those kind of things. And then in the future, you start sending out email blasts to those particular date and times so that you know that they'll be engaged with the email.
That sounds great. I can't wait for you to develop that so I can use it.
And I'm grinning like a fiend because that's what our company does. We essentially map the ideal path, help you validate your ideal customer profile, help you understand what personas interact with which before buying. So yeah, the future is here. What I'd really like to see further down the line, though, is ML is fantastic at identifying what's normal and what's anomalous, and being able to proactively identify what's being repeated over and over and what's ripe for automation would be great. So that looking for someone to develop that.
Okay, Tony, you want to chime in?
Yeah. You're describing we have a capability, predictive sending, which helps for an automation get right to the right time to send that email for when we expect you to be engaged. I think that is a good example of automation, but I think our customers today on every given weekday are processing over 1 billion individualized automation actions every single day. And these are small, mid-sized business owners out making things happen. I think when I think about what the future holds for us, I think there's a few things. One, I still believe very much in the begin with the end in mind type of concept. So really systems where you can articulate your goal and have it help you craft kind of automatically based on your data, your customers, all the signals that you have, how to achieve that goal or what strategies you might want to take. I think really moving beyond declarative and I would say lightly informed, AI to a more of a partner model where you show up and the platform is actually being able to surface to you insight into what the next best thing to do or what you ought to try from even a strategy level, to me really is our future. I think we're not quite there yet. I think we've got parts and pieces of it coming together. I think we're getting closer and closer. I don't think that it can be a black box as Camela, you pointed out. I do think that is a problem. You need to have transparency, and every business has some form of uniqueness to it. And I think that one of the challenges we've seen with social media and some of these other things is there's like this biased viewpoint that then starts to form, or models get trained down a very particular path, and your individualized signal gets lost in that. And so I think that's going to get solved, and I think it's going to get solved in a meaningful way, and it has to be solved for there to be enough variation down to that specific business, down to that specific customer or prospect that you're working with. And I think that, to me, we're marching as an industry in that direction, and we're making breakthroughs all the time. So I think that it's just a matter of time that before those things that we've seen as challenges are kind of in our past, and we're just a stepping stone to get us to where we really ought to be as an industry.
So Sanket, I'm assuming that ERPs have been fully automated and everything is perfect, right? So any improvement opportunities in your business?
Yeah, actually, I was going to build on what all the other panelists talked about, right? Because I certainly agree with everything that's been said. And it's interesting because all of us around the table here, the virtual table, come from technology-based businesses. So we certainly have a view of what we're providing to our customers and what we're doing ourselves. But, what is it? 90% of the economy is not that, right? It's something else. And what I find maybe fascinating as I would think about is for those technology businesses, what automation will mean over the next 5 to 10 years is that they're going to have to embrace more and more technology to continue to be more productive and competitive. And so that means that there'll have to be technology enabled businesses in those worlds. And I think what I would think about is for those companies that are going to be technology enabled, you're going to have to change the footprint of your employees' knowledge and capabilities for managing all these technologies. And so that doesn't mean that, a construction company is going to need a team of data scientists. But it does mean that if you're going to think about what you're going to use for leveraging automation 5 to 10 years from now, you're going to have to be very, very intentional about the technology choices you choose, the technology capabilities you have in-house. And that, I think, is very, very different for a sort of non-technology first business to then understand how they recruit people, how they train people, how they make that part of their strategy going forward. So I think that's the key lesson. We all I think we understand it because we're in technology, but I think there's a lot of interesting lessons for those that aren't, that they'll have to figure out what they need to do next.
I can't agree more, because I can't tell you how many companies I consulted for, small businesses, entrepreneurs who had contact us forms that just sat on their site and it wasn't routed anywhere. You really need somebody who can get the basics down, nail the basics.
So, all right. So this is an open question for anyone. So if somebody's listening to this or watching this and they want to start doing automation as part of their day-to-day business, what should they do? How should they start? What makes them? How do they have to think differently to make it happen?
I don't. Yeah, well, I'd suggest they go and start a trial with ActiveCampaign.com and really see what's possible. We have a library of hundreds of automation recipes to get them started and to give them ideas, and as well as a very active community of folks that in our Facebook community, you can just go and ask a question like, hey, I have this problem. I'm trying to engage with my audience. I have this contact form on my site. What do you do to collect those leads and ensure you follow up with them? And I think you'll find that within just a few hours, you can have that up and running. And if you're struggling getting that set up, our activation team could help you. Now, that's a very biased viewpoint, but I think that looking at where you have challenge, do you need more leads? Or you want to have better follow-up? Are you looking for a better close rate? Do you have a security challenge where you're not, disabling your employees when they attrit? I think there's a lot of challenges. Put it back into the lens of your business opportunities that you're seeing, and go solve that. And I think automation, you will find, can help you not focus on building a checklist and trying to do everything manually, or looking at a Google sheet of leads that just came in off of your Contact Us form, but actually following up for them. And then the people you call and tasks that are created in your CRM are the ones that are actually engaging with you and that would produce fruit for your business. And so I think that's probably how I would get started.
Okay. Yeah, I can add to that. I think I get this question a lot from our customers, CEOs, owners of companies. And I think the way that I try to help them think about, especially if they're starting from zero, is run a bunch of experiments and run them across all your functions. Challenge your COO, challenge your CFO, challenge your chief marketing officer to pick 1 or 2 areas that they want to experiment in, and try it out. And then understand from those experiments what works and doesn't work. Because I don't think there's any right place to start for any one company. There's one place to start. I think each business has to think about what's important to them and where they want to go. But you have to experiment and try a variety of things in order to figure out what's right for you, and then go from there and build. And then once you get that confidence of the first couple quick wins, it becomes easier to try others and expand further.
Fantastic advice. Camela?
Yeah.
I can add let me add just a comment to Sanket's perspective as well. I'll give an architecture perspective to how to initiate the focus areas of automation. I think from my point of view, in the ideal world, we would have an inventory of business processes, right? And in the real world, we don't. No one has. And so it's an area that you have to unfold, start from the high view, start from an airplane view of business processes, and try to understand where do you have more errors, mistakes that can lead to financial issues or customer satisfactions or employee satisfaction. So I think that's the area where they should target, try to quantify that, try to translate that in KPIs that are relevant to the business, and from there expand that business process into different areas. And I think there can be one of the architectural-driven approach, the user experience approach, also to initiate that.
Fantastic. Camela, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, a couple of things. Like, this is the marketer peeking through, but everybody needs customers, and everybody really should have a website. And the first thing you should probably automate is getting those leads in front of people so they're followed up on. So make sure that you're attracting people and following up with them. The other thing I would say is ask your teams to think through what they're doing on a repetitive basis. So look for repetition, things that can be templatized, and then that obviously will lead to automation. But thinking through, like, what emails do you send all the time? Is there something you can do to automate that? So
Awesome.
Start there.
Chad, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think about, people don't really go out looking for automation. They're usually trying to solve a pain point, right? So you have to look internally at your company and say, what are my pain points? Do I have high attrition? Am I losing leads in the funnel? Is code deployment taking 2 days to get to production? And I think those are the things that you look at to say, okay, how do I make this a better process? And what tools can I use to push code better, or to make sure that I'm not losing a lead in the cycle, or that I'm staying engaged with my customers? So I think it's really, you have to a self-observation of your company to say, where am I hurting and how can I improve that?
Fantastic. So Guido, you struck a chord with me on what you said around having a process inventory. I've been in the outsourcing business for a long time, and we had two types of outsourcing. It was either take a business process, fix it, and then outsource it, or take the current business process and outsource it. And we used to call that our mess for less. Now, in terms of automation, is there value in enhancing your business process and optimizing it before automating it, or do you do that at the same time?
I think automation is the opportunity to improve the business process, right? It is the opportunity to simplify that I think having the understanding of, I think the definition of KPIs that matter to the business is one point where you want to reach an objective, and set that as an objective. And I think that's where the simplification should evolve to.
Okay. Sanket? How do you feel about business process in the ERP world, fixing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we certainly believe that there's a lot more to go in terms of how we automate business processes. The way that I sort of define it is to cut to our customers is, do you have a digital replica of your business, end to end, with all of the data points that you can see it? I don't want to pull a matrix imagery or analogy here, but that's sort of the way I think about it. And until you sort of have that complete end-to-end view, then it becomes really hard. And so for us, we sort of view the ERP as the nervous system, and then connecting to all of those systems that are out there, whether they're the fingertips or the toes, and bringing all that data in one place so that you can automate those business processes and be effective. So that's sort of the end vision game that we're trying to move towards.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? All right. What are any of the risks or downside in automating technologies? And also, are any horror stories out there of automation gone horribly wrong? I'm looking at you, marketing people.
Yes. Well, there are a few things, like if you're automating communication, make sure you have delays in place so you're not blasting your entire sequence all at once. That's one. Also, creating loops. So the longer we have our CRMs in place, the more automation we put in place, the more likelihood there is that you're going to have contradicting logic. So just keep an eye out there. The longer you have systems in place for those incessant loops.
All right, fantastic. So with that, I think we'll bring Jonathan back.
Yes, hi, and thank you. And great job, everyone. That was an excellent discussion. Before we leave, I would like to invite each of you to take 30 seconds or so to promote your solution, social media, website, whatever you'd like. The floor is yours. Anders, you moderated, so we'll let you kick things off. 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, so if you have a procurement function that needs to be further automated, give you better intelligence, get better results and less risk, go to getfocalpoint.com and hit us up.
Excellent, thank you. Chad.
Yeah, so ACT is a very feature-rich CRM. We've been in the market for 35 years and have a very loyal customer base, which speaks volumes to the features and functions that we have within our application. We also have a very rich marketing automation application for email marketing, landing pages, web activity, lead scoring that is very integrated into the CRM. So visit us at act.com.
Thank you very much. Guido.
Yeah, so NetSync has its heart on employees' experience. So it's the digital experience of employees. So if you're an employee or if you are an IT leader, please check out NetSync. We are really blessed with an amazing amount of beautiful customers and large organizations who really could bring up extreme satisfaction to all their employee fleet.
Excellent, thank you. Sankit.
Thanks. Yeah. So Acumatica is the fastest growing cloud ERP company in the world. I would leave you with three things. One, that we have a future-proof platform. So our technology helps to make sure that you can continue to grow as you grow. Second, we're focused on customers. We have an NPS that's industry leading, and we score very, very high on G2. So our customers tend to love us. And third, we have a very interesting and innovative approach in terms of how we think about our commercial relationship with customers focused on consumption as opposed to users. If you're interested, for those distribution, manufacturing, and construction customers out there, check us out at acumatica.com.
Thank you. Camela.
If you're in B2B and you're struggling to make sense of your marketing data, check us out at calibermind.com, and also check out the Revenue Marketing Report, our podcast where we cover best practices.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Tony.
Yeah, thank you. I would just encourage you, please do take me up on that offer. Go to activecampaign.com, start a free trial, and try to automate something. You know, if you've got a sales engagement challenge or you've got a marketing automation challenge, ActiveCampaign is the platform you need. So no risk, free trial.
Thank you very much. That will do it for this topic. But if you're watching live, please stick around, as we'll be right back with our next group of work tech experts as we ask the question, is no-code automation the way of the future? Once again, for Solutions Review, my name is Jonathan Paula. Thank you again to our group of panelists, and thank you for watching. I hope you have a great afternoon.